In space, in a pod cycling a green moon, a teenage girl sits by the window, writing on her notepad while listening to loud music in her headphones. An announcement comes on and informs them that they're making their last cycle around the green moon. She intently listens to the message. She goes back to her father, who is preparing his tools. He questions where she has been. She gives him a snarky reply. Seeing her angry, he gives her the thrower to clean. She questions him about the earlier announcement and the possibility of them getting stranded when they descend. He only replies that they won't. Later, she fixes her headset to get another frequency and is happy when she succeeds. When they lie down to rest, her father tells her the story of how she was born on a planet called Lao. She wants to go back there, but her father is unwilling to talk more. He falls asleep while murmuring apologies for not telling her. The next day, they unlink their pod from the transport spaceship and launch into space. However, an unknown problem occurs, and they begin their descent into the planet. They manage to land, but the pod is broken. Her father hands her a map to determine their location. Then they get into spacesuits and head out. Her father gives her the map while he takes the thrower. As they move through the forest, they come across an old Aurillac dig site. Her father decides to check it out for any overlooked remains. She's not very happy about the idea of wasting time digging through old digs, but her father insists. She watches as he harvests an Aurillac and cuts out a sizable gem. He's happy. He might sell it for some good money, but is still not satisfied. They continue their way, separate this time, until her father informs her he's being approached by two unknown men. He tells her to hide as he settles the situation. The two men, Ezra and his number 2, corner her father, Damon, demanding he release any valuables he has. She listens to what's going on over her radio, sees father is cunning, and manages to convince Ezra and his friend to help him in mining more Aurillacs where he's heading, for which they can get a cut if they take out the other mercenaries. Ezra agrees to the deal. As he packs to leave, her father orders her in secret to secretly follow them, and when he gives the signal to use the thrower to hold off one of the men, C agrees hesitantly. They move on ahead. C gets the thrower and follows them behind. Reaching a resting place, Ezra is distracted by the appearance of the young girl holding a thrower, and Damon steals Ezra's gun and points it at him. Ezra and his friend surrender. Damon begins to check them for valuables at gunpoint. However, when he almost gets their stash of gems, the number 2 gets worked up and makes for his gun. Damon and the number 2 take each other out. C's single shot does little to defuse the situation. Ezra, who is left behind, realizes she's out of bullets and reaches for his gun, but he does not shoot her and lets her run. A wounded Damon makes guttural sounds and Ezra finishes him off. C runs back to her ship and tries to launch herself back into space for the transport ship to pick her up, but the pod is still damaged and cannot take off. She passes the time by enjoying her freedom and looking for scraps of packaged food. She hears some sounds coming from outside, and Ezra comes into the ship. She recharges a bullet and reloads the thrower, aiming it at anyone who might come through the door. Ezra comes in searching with his pistol. C shoots one into his arm. Painfully, he snatches away her gun and asks for a field kit. However, as she nears him, she easily snatches his pistol and points it at him. Being indecisive about killing him, she decides to give him the field kit. He promises to help and protect her as they go and find the Fringeling camp where he can help harvest, and they can get a flight out of the planet. She agrees to the deal, so long as they each can get an even split of the money. He agrees and also asks if she can hook up his breathing tube. C, with his gun behind him and his breathing tube hooked to hers, makes their way to the mercenaries' camp. She refuses to give up the map or her name to Ezra. However, she trusts him to change each other's filters. However, Ezra is getting affected by the wound he has received on his arm and is having trouble walking. As she waits for him to rest a little, an unknown man appears from far away and looks at them. She points the gun at him. However, Ezra encourages her to give that up, and they should raise their hands in surrender instead, in case they are already surrounded. They show their hands, and the man from afar leaves them be. Ezra tells C they should follow him. When C is reluctant, Ezra moves ahead alone, and she has to follow. They reach the camp of the dwellers, but they're not allowed inside with weapons. C reluctantly goes back with Ezra and hides her gun. Inside, they're offered some juice that cleans them of the dusty air. But the proposal of the leader of the camp is outrageous. He wants Ezra to give up C to remain in the camp as a betrothed to his son. C is horrified at the prospect and runs straight away from the camp. She runs to find her gun, but she trips and is almost captured. But then she destroys her captor's suit and she runs away again. She wanders the forest, her filtration system getting dangerously toxic, until she gets a radio frequency from someone out looking for help. She follows the frequency and reaches a small tent. When she enters, she finds a wounded Ezra, who's weak and sickly. Ezra returns her gun for her security. He promises that he would not have sold her, and instead wants her help with severing his sick arm. He gives her some packaged food. Then he sits down and hands her a laser knife to use. She uses the knife to cut off his arm neatly, and he's very surprised that she's not freaking out. She confesses that she's done this before when she was younger, cutting and hacking away at alien organs for an entire season. They continue the journey to the mercenaries' camp. On the way, she opens up to Ezra about the novel she has been writing on her pod, her regrets about letting her father die due to her incompetence, and her dream of being like the character in her books. Ezra encourages her not to let herself be lost in the past, but instead move forward. She eventually tells Ezra her name. At night, they arrive at the mercenaries' camp. Ezra introduces himself as Damon, and they start negotiating. In return for their service and some 2 points from them, the mercs will offer them 2 spaces in their pods for them to return to the transport spaceship in space. After some reluctance, the mercs leader agrees to their terms. However, the woman vice leader is not happy and still doubts them. They're taken to the Queen's nest grounds where they begin harvesting the Auralax. However, Ezra's arm is proving to be a handicap, and he cannot harvest the gems properly. During the first harvest, he destroys the first Auralac. The second time is the same, and the boss almost gives up on them until C jumps into the fray and tries to harvest one Auralac. It fails, and the boss loses all hope. Before he can make a move, Ezra throws him into the pit and kills him. They try to get away before his colleagues reach them. They run into the forest for cover, and Ezra manages to take out one of them. The woman vice captain is quite angry and comes after him into the forest. Ezra convinces C to split up and then come around and distract the woman who's aiming for his position. They split up, and when the vice leader nears him, C knocks her from the side. However, she manages to stab Ezra in the abdomen. Ezra, however, guts her with the laser knife until she dies. A wounded Ezra encourages C to return to camp, get a pod, and leave this place. She leaves Ezra, bleeding out, goes to camp, and finds another filter. She's almost shot by one of the mercenaries who had remained, but she's saved by the prisoner, who is being held by the mercenaries, who kills the last of the remaining mercs. She returns to Ezra with a new filter, shoots him a cold shot to numb his pain, and then picks him up, and they trudge to the camp. They find the purple prisoner who lets them pass to the ship. They give a nod of thanks, and he returns their thanks. They get into the pod and successfully launch into space, where they can reconnect with the transport spaceship. C is happy to survive as they approach the transport spaceship while Ezra passes out beside her. Thrilling film comes to an end. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.